In today's video, we're going to talk about how you can get started in 2023 in the junk removal industry. Okay, now I don't know if you know, but junk removal in 2023 is estimated to be a $10 billion industry in the United States alone. Over 29% of Americans who actually move are utilizing a junk removal company. And that's just when people move. That is not including all of the random reasons why people are using junk removal. So if you're watching the video and you've ever thought about a side hustle or getting into the junk removal industry, it is a phenomenal way to either make an additional stream of income on top of what you're already doing, or a phenomenal way to get out of what you're doing entirely and turn junk removal into a business. Let's go ahead and jump into the video. So I recently had a guy by the name of Kyle Mackinac on my podcast. And if you're not familiar, I have a podcast. I interview a lot of very high-level people. And he actually built a junk removal business to $1 million a year at the age of 22 years old. And I went ahead and did a little bit of research after I interviewed him, and I wanted to make a shorter video breaking down exactly the 5 steps that you need to know getting into the junk removal business based off of the information that he shared with me, but also based off of all of the information I did when doing my own research. So here you go. If you haven't already, I would greatly appreciate it if you would smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm, especially if you get value out of what we're about to talk about. Step number 1 of getting into the junk removal industry is to really just commit to the idea that you're actually going to do it, right? And I think that you might want to just go ahead and obviously skip to step number 2, but really focusing on step number 1, right? I'm an entrepreneur. If you're brand new to my channel, I own multiple different companies. And the reality of it is, a lot of the times, we think we have to have, big elaborate plan, right? We think we have to have, it all figured out, and we have to have the perfect insurance and the perfect, marketing and branding, and we have to be all over Google. And the reality of it is, you just have to make the decision that you're going to get started, right? And half of the battle is just making that decision that, hey, I'm going to do junk removal, right? And I'm committed to it, and I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to get a customer, and then once I get one customer, I'm going to learn from my mistakes, and then I'm going to get another customer and another one, and you'll eventually build, and we'll talk about a lot of that in step number 2.
Well, when I started with junk, there wasn't really a strategy. It was me being a young buck and just like having this vision and deciding, I guess people could utilize this service. Let me go out and help them. We'll get a truck. We'll see what it takes, how it evolves, and then all of a sudden it just kind of started spiraling, and so now it's at a completely different phase, and that's where the thinking starts to evolve. We're like, hey, where do we want to take it next? But to loop back around to your original question, like when we started, it was just like, let's go for it. Let's do it. And I think that's, if you're an entrepreneur and you're thinking about jumping into the space and doing it, it's like that's your first step. Give it a try. It's always worth giving it a try and seeing what it turns into from there.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love the idea of just like doing it, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, they get into being an entrepreneur and they think that they have to have the entire thing figured out, right?
Yeah, whole like business plan, everything.
Yeah, the whole thing. Like they got to know, how they're going to get to $1 million a year, then 2 million, then 5 million.
Totally.
And the reality is, like, what I'm hearing from you is just like, you just jumped in.
You know? And like, I think what it really takes is like really good, especially with a service-based business, is like, think about the customer first, right? Like the money and the funds will always come. But if you take care of the customer first, like solve their needs, give them a solution, and then you'll start to just, repeats, referrals will start to come in.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you'll be busier than you expect. It's like, when I got into the industry, I networked with like a landscape maintenance guy, and he would tell me like, Kyle, like you might not have a couple customers now, but like eventually, dude, like people will know that you do this, and your phone will like not stop ringing. Like even if you want to take a day off or two, like people are gonna call, they're gonna need this service. And I think with us, that was our thing, is like get the brand out there, like just bring value to these people, show them what we do. and then in return the money will always come, you know.
Yeah. In my humble opinion, you don't need to have a dump truck or a dump trailer or anything like that right out of the gate. Now, obviously, if you already have that, that'll be great, and that'll definitely work in your favor. But that being said, if you're watching the video right now, you really need the customer, right? You need the demand before you can afford to go blow or invest, a bunch of money into getting, equipment, right? Into getting, your truck wrapped or getting your trailer wrapped with a bunch of marketing or whatever it might be. In the beginning, let's just say you have a Ford F-150 sitting in your driveway, or you have a, Chevrolet, 2500, or you've got a Dodge Ram or even a minivan or whatever you might have. You can get started with what you have, right? And maybe you can't charge quite as much in the beginning because you're not quite as, official, but nonetheless, you can get a customer. Somebody will pay you, even to come there with whatever it is that you're already driving or whatever you have, and just give it your sweat equity in the beginning and build up some cash in the bank account before you really move on. Talk to me about getting a client, getting a consumer. Like, totally. Where are they finding you? How are they getting a hold of you? And so on and so forth.
That's the cool thing about this industry is that, like everyone can utilize it, right? So whether you advertise online and you're coming for like a direct lead source where someone's specifically searching for it, and then we come up, on the top of Google, Facebook, Instagram, etc. Or you can go like we do direct sales for like real estate companies like yourself, or home inspectors, plumbers, restoration companies, roofers, like you name it. Yeah. We can go out and basically give them our information and say, hey, we're an additional service that can help you on your job sites, and help you take care of any situation that might come up, whether you need a dumpster or a trash haul. So there's just so many different ways to get business in this industry, and that's like the really cool thing about it. My sales guys, they love it. They just grab a stack of cards and coupons, go, they went to Old Town, Scottsdale the other day and just flooded all the stores down there. And then a week later, clients calling, hey, we're remodeling our store. We want to get rid of all the tables and chairs in here. Can you guys come out and haul them? Yeah. So it's a really simple industry to kind of sell and market and brand, which is the nice thing.
So step number 2 is obviously getting a consistent flow of customers, okay? Now, this is probably the most important step out of all of them, in my humble opinion. Obviously, watch step 3, 4, and 5. But with that being said, what I love about junk removal in particular, especially after interviewing Kyle, doing my own research, and after, really being an entrepreneur and owning multiple different companies, the idea of the fact that everybody is a potential customer for junk removal is truly fascinating, right? When we think about a different industry, your pool of potential customers is limited, right? Like I used to own a pool cleaning company, okay? And obviously, my potential customers had to own a pool, okay? Like I couldn't clean, somebody's pool if they didn't own one, right? But with junk removal, really, everybody is a potential customer, right? And what I would highly encourage you to do is put yourself out there. Go to networking events, go into Facebook groups, build potential B2B, kind of relationships, right? Business to business relationships, network with real estate agents, right? Mortgage officers, LOs, really put yourself out there. A lot of like plumbers, electricians, people like that are going to be a phenomenal resource for you to network with. And they're definitely going to be able to refer you to business, or they themselves will be able to actually hire you to come, remove all the piping that they did, or whatever the case actually might be. One of the big things in junk removal, really in any industry, is that you have a phenomenal customer service experience, right? When we think about, diving into a new industry, building, a potential $10,000 a month, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month, business, we really do that by word of mouth in the long run, right? Now, obviously, in the beginning, you're just trying to get a customer, and I understand that. But from day one, you should be thinking about how are you going to talk to people on the phone? How are you going to get them to book, a potential free estimate, right? Should you have a script so that when people call you, you have a very specific formula of how you actually talk to them, right? And you want to create a good customer service day one, because those initial people that use you, even in the beginning, if you're just driving around in an extra truck that you have or whatever, they're going to refer you to more people, right? They're going to tell their family about you, their friends about you. And ultimately, you're going to be able to build your belief of actually being able to get into the junk removal industry, okay? So I highly recommend that you really put real thought into how are you going to treat people, how are you going to talk to people, and how are you going to ultimately separate yourself from maybe other junk removal companies in your area. Step number 3 is, how do you scale, and should you introduce, any other services besides junk removal, okay? And I did a lot of research. I talked to Kyle, and obviously, again, I've owned multiple companies. So right out of the gate, the biggest piece of advice that I could give you is don't scale too quickly either, right? And I think a lot of people, you're starting to get good at junk removal. Let's just say you're starting to do a job or two a day, right? Maybe you're doing, 3 jobs a day, right? And you start to think, man, I could do, another service. I could get into demolition. I could get into fill in the blank, right? And a lot of times that'll actually backfire for you. So I wouldn't recommend doing that until you get really, really good at the main thing, right? You always want to keep the main thing when you're actually scaling or trying to scale, okay? Now, another big one is obviously just getting the word out there and reinvesting, okay? So if you're starting to get consistent, then reinvest, get a website, right? Make it look good, okay? Another big thing that you can do is you can get ranked on Google, right? You can either pay somebody to do that, or you can learn how to do it yourself. But get into Google SEO, right? You want people to be able to search you if they go on Google, right? Whatever town you live in, whatever city you live in, if people search you, you want to be able to pop up. Now, obviously, you're only going to be able to do that when you start to get consistent, okay? Another big tip is to make sure you're starting to plan ahead, right? You always want to be thinking about tomorrow, okay? You want to be scheduling people for the following day.
I'm always like a day ahead. So like after we leave here, I'm starting the day for tomorrow. So your team is dependent on you. So you have to be able to set up their, schedule and systems and stuff like that. So it's very important to obviously get your week organized, but things come ebbs and flows, especially in junk removal. People are calling needing same day service, next day service. So like you might have a few appointments, but then it turns into a ton that day or the next day. So being able to kind of push your calendar and be flexible is important. We've realized that like how, we've done so many different ways on how to ask for a review, whether that's like a digital link, like a card, an incentive, like you could do like an amazing job for a customer and sometimes they won't leave a review. They're just busy or they have stuff going on or it's not top of mind to them. But yeah, if you're able to, I think to your point, like ask right away, or ask when there's a good opportunity, like you can kind of catch them there, and that's crucial, because reviews, that's probably, you bringing that up makes me think like, number one thing that customers say, oh, this is why I reached out to you, is you had good reviews. You guys had 5 stars and they said, this and this about you removing my mattress or whatever it was for the other customer. But it's like, wow, you hear that and you're like, dude, let's get some more stinking reviews because they're crucial, especially the Google ones. For me, I think it's about trying it and, doing like a 90-day block and really studying the numbers and figuring out, hey, is this kind of really a pain in the ass for my business, or is it bringing more money for my business? For me, the demolition was one that we added on to where never would have considered until a customer said, hey, I need my bathroom's gone, my flooring gone, a couple walls. Would you guys consider doing it? Hey, we tried it. Then we're like, hey, there's good margins in this. It seems to make sense. Then we took it on. Worked really well for us because there was opportunity to make good margins in that and add more value to the business for profits and stuff like that. But I think every business is a little different. Definitely give it a try. But if you see like, hey, it's steering me in the wrong direction and pulling crews from here, or it's becoming a headache, then it's like, hey, maybe don't do that. I think in reality though, when you're first starting is like your core, like us as junk removal is really getting that like down, get your systems down, get your customers down, get everything down and know how to do it really well. And then if you want to dabble and try something else or add an additional service, go for it. But don't be like kind of good at junk removal and then be like, all right, I'm gonna go do dumpsters.
For
It's
sure.
like get really good at that first service that you offer.
Step number 4 is to really think about scaling, right? Now, obviously, you wouldn't get into junk removal if the goal, I would imagine, wasn't to make a pretty good amount of money. You know, I think when we think about getting into a side hustle or starting a business, you know, you want to make good money, right? Like, obviously, you're watching the video right now because you want to make good money. And the way that you do that, right, the way that you scale any business, okay, is by eventually creating everything like a standard operating procedure, right? So when you think about, you know, getting to that next level, you have to think about, is what I'm doing duplicatable, right? Can I duplicate how I'm talking on the phone? Can I duplicate how to drive the truck, how to back up the trailer, how to drop off the junk, how to, you know, really anything, right? Can I duplicate that? And so when you think about eventually hiring, you know, your first person, you think about creating a real business out of junk removal, you really do have to think about building out standard operating procedures, okay? Now, that'll apply to anything that you do, you know, when it comes to actually running a business. But again, if it isn't duplicatable, you will not be able to scale. So think of every aspect of the business and what you do on a day-to-day basis and write a template for it, right? Write an outline, have a checklist, like really think about it, think through it, and put pen to paper for everything. What are some systems that you had to put in place as you scaled that maybe you didn't need in the beginning, but you need now? I know obviously one of them is like, hey, plan the next day, right?
Yeah, totally.
What are some other systems that you really had to like dial in to really get it to where it's at today?
Yeah, I would say our training manuals and our hiring manual was like kind of crucial. You know, I was pretty fortunate when I first started is like a lot of buddies, like I was younger, like wanted to work for me. And it's like, okay, cool. You can kind of build, you know, a small business that way. And then eventually it's like, hey, that dies out. You got to get like real staff, real employees and stuff. So that was crucial for me, is giving them the like employee handbook, the binder, basically setting them up when they come in like, hey, today is your first day. You know, here's what the business is, here's our motto, here's our brand, and then here's your steps to follow along. And then we put them through like a 10-day training course, whether they're junk removal or a dumpster rental, and then they can basically take that packet home with them, dive deeper and stuff like that. And I think even though we're a trash-based business, we're really big on customer service, like I talked about earlier. So there's a lot of that in the handbook, talking about how to talk to the customer, you know, what to say, how to ask for reviews, like, you know, how to interact, all that stuff. So I would say the hiring one was most crucial for me. And then from there, you know, obviously we're transportation based in the trash industry is our trucks, you know, like what type of stuff you need in the trucks, how to operate the trucks, where to take the trash from one facility to another, you know, when to fill it up. You know, does it take gas? Does it take diesel? All those small things matter, you know, because these guys are coming into your business and it's foreign to them. So you have to really give them the playbook. And I'd say like each business is different. So you kind of really got to sit down and think deep on, hey, what does my playbook look like? And like we talked about earlier, it doesn't need to be like step 0 to 100, like perfect. Just start something and you can kind of edit it as you go and be like, hey, that piece what really wasn't that good when I was with that staff member, like let's improve it, let's add this or let's change that. So I think just creating your system, creating your playbooks, and then from there it gets people comfy, it gets them juicy, you know, they really start to bleed the brand and it starts to spike. I love that. You don't want people putting diesel in a gas truck, you know. Do not want that. And I mean, cross fingers, hasn't happened yet, but you know, that's not a good move. No. Yeah, for sure. No, and I love that, man. I think that, you know, that is all like very crucial in building a company, right? Totally. And I think those are the things that people don't think about, right? Like all of the nitty gritty literal stuff that you have to put into place in order to build a company. It's all the stuff that people don't want to do, you know, and me being more of the visionary, I'm like, I have a good integrator on my team and I kind of feed him that and he can kind of help make that playbook, because for me, I'll, you know, start doing it and then you'll call me and I'll be like, hey, I want to talk to Austin, you know, like, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. I'm like kind of all over the place and just having visions and seeing stuff. And so having a good integrator, someone that can help you with that, is crucial as well, because you're not always going to be the best at everything. And being an entrepreneur, don't beat yourself up because you're not the best at everything. Like, get people to help you, get people to help grow your team. And like, that was a thing for me, is like giving stuff up. I'm like, dude, you're not the only one that can do this. Like, give it up. Like
Yeah.
let someone else do it, you know? So
Very difficult thing for entrepreneurs to
it
do.
is, yeah. And then once you see it kind of in motion and it's happening, you're like, oh, dude, why did I wait so long
Yeah.
to give that up? You know, it's like it speeds things up. The more you can give up and delegate, you know, it helps the business, it helps the brand.
So step number 5 goes right along with step number 4. We're starting to think about actually scaling a junk removal company. We have to think about getting licensed, about getting bonded, about getting insured, right? That'll separate you from your competition, okay? No matter what you're trying to do in the world of like junk removal type of businesses, you know, if you go get licensed, bonded, and insured, it'll totally separate you, right? Then eventually you have to think about, you know, getting workers' comp. You have to think about getting a commercial auto liability policy for, you know, if you're going to eventually start to get, you know, an extra truck, you know, truck on top of that, maybe a trailer, a dump trailer, right? We want to think about, you know, getting the proper insurance on the company, right? On the vehicles, on the equipment, but also on the company, on the people, okay? So we want to think big picture like that. We also want to think about, you know, potential financing to get a dump truck, to get a dump trailer, to get, you know, a potential trash can, a dumpster, right? And we want to build relationships. Again, in the world of business, you know, we're always thinking about how do we build relationships with the right people that will be able to help us move the needle of where we're trying to go, right? So, you know, build a good relationship with somebody in the commercial finance, you know, world that'll be able to help you so you're not having to go pay cash, you know, for a dump truck or a dump trailer or a dumpster or whatever, but instead you can get a good interest rate and you don't have to actually pay cash for everything. Will allow you to potentially scale much, much, much quicker. What is the most like complicated thing of doing junk removal that maybe people wouldn't think about, right? Like, is it I need a CDL driver? Is it insurance is a pain in the butt? Is it getting a customer is really hard? Like, what do people not think about?
Yeah, I would say there's a few things that come to top of mind, but like the commercial auto insurance, what you kind of just mentioned is like, once you take the step from going like truck and trailer, like one man band to going to, you know, like I want to grow a team and have like dump trucks, like having a great like auto insurance policy is crucial, general liability, workers' comp, because a lot of these apartment complexes or like, you know, nice office space that we're in here, like they require an umbrella, like well over $1 million policy. So like if you want to score those big jobs, like you need that stuff. Otherwise, you're really not going to compete with the guys that can bid those jobs. So yeah, I'd say that's totally crucial, is the auto and general liability, workers' comp, really getting a good insurance company to kind of package you and protect you, because it's not also going to protect you, it's going to help you, you know, put you up against the guys that maybe don't have that, and you can bid the bigger jobs. Like with us, with demolition and wrecking and tear outs and stuff, we're able to kind of take on those bigger jobs because we have the license for that and the insurance for that. So we can kind of say like, hey, you know, you may have this bid, but this is our bid. You know, is that person, we're happy to honor that, or, you know, come close. Is that person licensed, bonded, insured? Oh my gosh, they're not. I didn't even realize. And then they look into that. Turns into a whole thing. I think you and I have talked about this before where, you know, customer calls like, oh, that's super expensive. And you're like, you know, hey, it includes 2 insured gentlemen, you know, transportation, disposal of it, lead costs, fuel cost. Like you start listing off the things and people are like, wow, that makes sense. You know, like, when are you available? You know, kind of giving them value of like, hey, the reason it costs this much is because there's these things, you know, that go with it.
You're going to be valuable to the customer by providing that level of service, right?
Totally.
Because, I mean, like anybody could just like probably go start a junk removal company and put the junk in the back of their Chevy, right? And have like no branding and no business and no insurance and no nothing. Yeah. And sure, that guy is going to be able to do it cheaper than you, right?
100%. You know, and that's the thing of like, I try and teach the guys that are wanting to really get into this space, is what I preached earlier, like the good auto insurance, the general liability, like the good website, the good branding. Like if you want to do this for the long term, like all that's crucial, because it will set you aside from like the one-man band, and it'll get you into like that upper echelon of like, you know, zip codes that can afford to, you know, leverage their time and say, hey, I don't want to do this, I want you to do it. Cool. Well, guess what? It comes with a price, and we send a team out there and we handle it and we get it done. Well, that's going to set you aside from like the one-man band, is like going after the people that really value their time.
What was a challenge that you had to overcome to get from, making, I don't know, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 grand a year to getting to a place, where you're making, close on some months, probably to up to, like 100 grand.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Yeah, no, the whole financing aspect of equipment is difficult because like when you come in as a company, like if you come in as like a new company, especially to, manufacture like an upfit like ours, where it's like a specialty truck for trash removal or, pressure washing or whatever, electrical, like a truck that needs like a lot more add-ons than a normal truck does. If you come to the table as a brand new business, they're like, well, hey, like, we don't know, are you going to perform or not? So usually that comes with like a high interest rate is what happens. And so my thing is just creating a relationship with whatever like dealership you want to select. We go through Sanderson Ford.
Okay.
And so I picked a specific person that I connected with there. And at first, of course, it was kind of like, hey, we just met. It's like they take your blood. Like it's like crazy how much like information they need.
They want everything. Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's like, you're like, am I going to get this or not? Like it becomes down to that point. And then now, the last truck that we just got, he had everything lined up. I was there maybe 10 minutes, walk in, sign it, didn't ask me for an application, nothing. So like building those relationships is crucial because then they start to see like, okay, hey, he got one truck. He's making his payments. Okay, that one got paid off. Okay, he's going to order another one. He's making his, okay, cool. He keeps ordering throughout, and I think that's key instead of like bouncing around to like all these different places is kind of stick with your one guy that can help you upfit and kind of grow your fleet of trucks because that'll just in reality help you get more because when you ring his phone, he knows you're probably calling to get another truck, and make sure you got your down payment, your personal credit lined up, your business credit, like everything's in line. You're showing up to that table to purchase that piece of equipment like you're going to war.
Yeah.
Because, they'll ask you for everything under the sun.
Oh, for sure, dude. So there you have it. Those are the 5 easy steps if you're looking to get into the junk removal industry in 2023 and beyond, maybe going into 2024. I do really believe, again, after interviewing Kyle, after doing a little bit of my own homework, when I really think, as an entrepreneur, of all the things that you can do out there, and I know you probably watch, Cody Sanchez on YouTube, you probably watch Ryan Pineda. There's a lot of people you probably watch, and maybe you've even looked at, owning a laundromat, starting a pool cleaning company, a pest control company. You want to get into real estate, right? There are so many different things that you can do. I really do believe that junk removal is an underrated industry, okay? And I think that there's a lot of opportunity. And there's also a lot of opportunity to separate yourself getting into that industry. So I definitely hope that the video provided you value. If you haven't already, I would greatly appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel, watch my other videos. I actually interview a lot of different businesses throughout the entire country and break everything down. So definitely go check that out. Comment down below if you have any questions and smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm.